We are now here today, especially with the renewed exuberance around quantum computing, to discuss whether this is a material threat to Bitcoin in the near term, what is being done to quantum-proof Bitcoin, and much more. We even took some time to highlight some of the milestones and accomplishments in 2024 with a look to what's to come in 2025. So joining Cathie and I for this brainstorm was Adam Back, CEO of Blockstream. Adam's actually a renowned cryptographer and one of the earliest pioneers in Bitcoin. He's actually cited in the Bitcoin whitepaper for his invention of Hashcash, a proof-of-work system foundational to Bitcoin's design. Back has been deeply involved in cryptography and decentralized technologies for over 3 decades. Also joining us was Matt Corallo with Spiral. Matt's a prominent Bitcoin developer and open source advocate who's contributed significantly to Bitcoin's core infrastructure. Also, Frank Downing, Director of Research at ARK Invest. Frank's been focused on disruptive innovation in the fields of blockchain and AI, so added a lot of value to the brainstorm. And then last but not least, my friend and co-founder of Bitcoin Park, Matt Odell. Matt's a prominent Bitcoin advocate, educator, and host of one of the top Bitcoin podcasts in the world. He's known for promoting privacy and self-sovereignty within the Bitcoin ecosystem and is now working as a managing partner at the VC firm 1031. So I hope you all enjoy this episode as much as we did, and we'll see you in 2025. So Cathie, let me just actually pass it to you around this topic of quantum computing. What's on your mind right now?
What's on my mind? Well, I've been in the business generally for more than 40 years and very focused always on technology. And for the last 40-ish years, quantum computing has always been 20 years away, right? And we really hadn't seen much progress at all. And so, I've been skeptical of anyone who proposes that it's about to transform anything. But I will say AI has been a wake-up call from this point of view. AI has been around. I mean, it's certainly been in science fiction, but, they've been working on it for 50, 60 years plus. But recently, the breakthroughs have been so dramatic, transformer architecture and so forth, generative AI, that it is, slowly, then all at once. And so I just want to make sure that we're thinking about this correctly. I don't want to dismiss any possibilities because I do think technologies are moving ahead faster and faster. And I would love to know from these esteemed experts on technology, blockchain technology in particular, Bitcoin in particular, do they see any risks? Because they're working deeply in are right in the thick of it, and I'm sure are worried. And I know they're worried all the time about what could go wrong. That's why Bitcoin is the most secure network out there. So.
Totally. Maybe we start with Adam, and I know Matt is Blue Matt is one of the most skeptical people out there, so he's good from an adversarial thinking perspective. But I know Adam, you've been reply guying a lot of folks in terms of where we are right now. You like that, Odell, the reply guy? Thank you.
Well, I think actually, if you read there's a particular quantum press release that is, and this happens from every some number of months, that there's some press release to do with quantum, and then the Bitcoin FUD fires up how Bitcoin's dead because quantum is here. And because it's always, probably a decade or two premature for actually being practical. But this particular one is Google Willow. And if you read the actual Google Willow material, it's fairly well balanced. It caveats that they're pretty early. You can't really use it for anything practical yet, but they think it's, an architectural improvement in error correction and a few things. There's a lot of technology that has to come together and get scaled massively from where things are now until it works. And I think one thing that they do is they benchmark some artificial sort of synthetic behavior. And so I was trying to sort of research and ask people who look at quantum algorithms more commonly what the actual performance on relevant things are. So it'd be good to know, not does it have quantum symmetry for something that nobody cares about that doesn't mean anything, but, how big of a number can it factor? And it turns out, I think that other than sort of shortcuts, they have not been able to factor the number 15 yet, which sounds laughable because, children could do that at school and so on. But it's because if you want to use the proper algorithm, you have to do modular exponentiation. And the circuit to do modular exponentiation is too big to fit in any of the quantum computers in the last, and they've been around for 26 years. The first one was like 3 bits in 1998, I think. That was the very first physical quantum computer. So they still can't do that, right? So I was thinking, they're talking about 100-bit quantum computers and they're not all comparable. So, well, how many bits can you factor? And I start reading a bunch of stuff. And apparently, basically, unless you cheat and you take shortcuts and you don't do the hard stuff, 0 bits. So we don't even have a cryptographically relevant benchmark yet, right? And Bitcoin doesn't use factoring, but it's something, similar kind of concept in terms of hardness. And they seem to focus more on factoring because it's a sort of simpler problem to work with. But, if they start factoring cryptographically relevant RSA numbers, that's time to start paying attention. So, it's kind of tempting to propose a bet to some of them because they're saying that we should watch out by 2028. Like, no way. So that's where I'm at.
Well, that's where like the rate of improvement discussion becomes important, because there's some point in the future where this is a meaningful thing to consider and take action on. We know we're not there yet, but how long will it take to get there? And I'm not a quantum expert, but I've been looking at the estimates for the size of a system needed to do this kind of large number factoring. And depending on whether you're talking about logical qubits or physical qubits, there's a range of several thousand to millions of physical qubits required to do anything that would come close to challenge modern cryptography. And where we are now, at least from Google's perspective, is going roughly from 50 qubits to 100 qubits over the last 5 years. So even if they double the number of qubits every year for the next 14 years, you're just in the single digit thousands. And that's a 14, 15 year time period before it's close to possible. And so and that's doubling versus doubling over 5 years, doubling every year. So maybe there's a dramatic acceleration that will happen, but it's not the trajectory so far.
Yeah, actually, I tried to calculate it, which was to go from the number 3 in 1998 to where they are now. And it came out with a kind of a power distribution increasing by 16% a year to get to like the hundreds now. And if you project that forward to get to a big enough quantum computer to be cryptographically relevant, it would be in another 50 years. And, because that doesn't mean that's what happens. That's just curious to see what the actual numbers say, because as Cathie said, people have been looking at this for a few decades. They've been seeing sort of indistinguishable things year after year, and the rate of progress has actually been like relatively modest in terms of bits, right? It hasn't been doubling annually or anything close to it.